Forgot to start filming, and judging by the state of my hair last time, I'm desperate need of a haircut, so I'm not flipping the camera. So what I'm currently doing is I'm actually moving the old red galaxies into the mix tank. So we're just dripping those at the moment. It's quite a fast drip, and I'm moving this tank out, absolutely stripping this tank. And what I'm starting with is over on the bottom right, those few King Kongs that are in there. I'm going to move the UGF box up into that tank. I don't know what I'm doing with the substrate, but I'll keep the substrate in the UGF box, and then I'm going to move their water as well. So I'll take the water and the UGF box over. There's only about 4 or 5 shrimp, so they'll be fine in a 25 litre. I'll probably take the bogwood after I've cleaned the hair algae off it, but I'll probably take not the bogwood, the chollerwood, and maybe that bit of lava stone. But that's where we're starting. So we're starting to empty tanks from here, and that will give me a tank to start moving stuff across into once I've cleaned and scrubbed this tank out. So let's crack on with that. And as if by magic, the first shrimp tank, so this will be a Neocaridina tank, is on the rack. I have done a video on this, so I've done a video as setting up a shrimp tank for beginners. Quick look at it. So what we've got: sponge filter, sand, bit of dragonstone, and some flame moss tucked in between the rocks. Next step in the process is I need to move this tank and this tank temporarily onto the rack, simply because these 2 tanks are coming out. Once those 2 are out, this tank and this tank will go in their place. And then on the top shelf, I'm going to put that tank, and I'm going to move the rest of my galaxies into another tank the same as that. So the top tank's going to go up a little bit taller. I still need to decide what I'm doing with my PRL, but at the moment there's no room for them. So we need to have a bit of a think about that. I have moved the shrimp out of that tank into here, and I just took the soil out and I took the UGF box out. It is probably too small for these, but I moved those out and I put the original, sorry, there's a reflection there, but I put the original shrimp that were in here down into the mix tank. So they've gone down into the mix. I might end up putting my PRL down into the mix. I haven't made my mind up yet. This next part of the project is probably going to be the most time consuming. So what I need to do is I need to move the middle 2 tanks on this rack that contain Neos onto the bottom shelf of the new rack. Now the difficulty is you can't just slide them out because they fit so tight into this rack. So what I'm going to have to do is empty this tank and the one next to it, move them over onto the new rack temporarily, move the next 2 out, move those 2 tanks into this middle section, and then put those 2 tanks back for now. And because they're Caridina, I'm going to need to try and save as much of the water as possible. So I'll do water changes while I'm doing it just to make it a little bit easier. But that's the plan. How much of this will get done today, I don't know, but let's get stuck in. So first tank's off the rack and moved over. So this, as I said, is just temporary. I do need to have a think about moving the frogs. So I do need to move the frogs in order to get some of the tanks out from the rack on the far right as you're sort of facing the main racks. And that in itself is going to be a challenge. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do that yet. I need to have a bit of a think about that, because they are quite heavy and I do need somewhere to put them. So whether maybe I should have put these tanks that I'm moving now somewhere else, so I can just slide the frog tanks over to here. Little turmoil update here then. So I've managed to get the first of the middle tanks out. They're a nightmare because they're so tight, you have to remove the shelf above them. I didn't think before I did it, I'm going to have to move the frogs to get these out. So my original idea was to have my galaxies still on the top shelf, but I think I'm going to set them up on here for now, move this one today or tomorrow, and then unfortunately this tank and this tank will have to go there. I've got no other way of doing this because it's probably not too bad actually, because it's sort of sitting height for when I do video and stuff, so that's okay. But I probably should have tried to move them over today, but I'm absolutely done in, my back's killing. And moving these frogs, although they're not full of water, they're heavy, so I'm going to need a hand with that. And ideally I need that part of the rack, so this part of the rack empty, in order to do that, because that's where I'm going to put them. And then once I've moved these two tanks out, then ideally, if they fit, I want the two frog tanks to go down one, to leave that top shelf open for a big project later in the year or early next year. And the only sort of good thing, I suppose, is that once I've moved these over and move the frogs over, when I move these tanks, they can just go straight back on the top shelf. So I haven't got to faff around. I can just empty them into buckets, move the tank, fill them back up from the bucket. Another day, another pile of work done. So let me just flip the camera and show you what I've been up to. As you know from yesterday, we moved these two tanks over temporarily, and we've got 3 Neo tanks over. Now I do need to empty this one just to slide it back to fit lighting that I'm waiting for. I decided to order new lights for this rack. Then what we've done is we've moved the Galaxy tank that was on the bottom of the right rack over to here. I'm not filling these up because I'm going to do water changes as part of that process. So that tank has come off the bottom shelf here. Now the next bit is I need to move these tanks out onto the top of that rack. But in order to get them out, I need to move the frogs. Now I have moved the right frog tank. I'm in the process of moving the left frog tank. Now I have run into a bit of a problem. So if we look across here, this style from here to here is 44 centimeters front to back, which is absolutely perfect because this rack is 915 by 455. So that's going to fit nice and tight into the corners. This one, however, is wider, and where I've got a problem is on this corner, because this has got sort of quite a wide lip. The tank's bigger, it's got quite a wide lip. These edges don't fit into these corners, they overlap. However, I've worked out if I get the hacksaw out and cut off so it's like a lip, I don't have to cut off all the plastic, just the lip about 1 inch either side, just to go into this piece, and then that will work. I can get that done. So let's get the hacksaw out and butcher this. My other option, which is my preferred one, is to get another one of these style and redo the tank for the frogs, the small red frogs. That would be the ideal solution, because then I've got 2 identical tanks next to each other, terrariums next to each other. But I need to check the finances to see if we can do that. It'd be nice if Exoterra Frogs and Co would sponsor that one, because that would be absolutely perfect. But here's hoping. Good morning, you lovely people. So it was a late one. Room was left in an absolute tip. So I did manage to get the frogs moved, ended up doing them on my own, struggled like mad, but I had a bit of a plan. So what, I'll flip the camera around, and well, I'll just turn actually. So the smaller frog tank was originally there, but it was easier for me to move the bigger one from there to there on my own without help. So what I've ended up doing is putting the small one down there on that chair on a board for now. It is early. I'm sore, but not as sore as I thought I'd be. So the room's an absolute tip. There's bits of rubbish absolutely everywhere. I need to have a bit of a clean up. I do have someone come in today, a customer and a viewer and also a Patreon. So Paul supports me on Patreon, and a massive shout out to Paul. He's been really good with helping support the business, and Paul's going to help me lift these back on later this afternoon. But I do want to have a bit of a tidy up first, because the room, as I said, is an absolute tip. And before I can do that, I need to sort of edit this rack and get this rack how I want it, so that the frogs can go on there. And I've had a bit of an idea. It's not perfect, but it does work. These two tanks here, I can fit one on the bottom of there, so I can keep the PRL, and the other one I'm going to edit this rack, so once that's empty, that will be a sump down there, and the sump will be for the frog misting systems. I need to sort of edit and adapt the frog misting systems, so at least I'll have sort of a decent reservoir there for that as a temporary thing, I think. And well, we just need to get stuck in. So I haven't topped all the tanks up yet. I have temporarily put an air feed in. I've altered and edited all of the top up systems, and although this looks a bit crooked at the moment, it won't, because that will be sort of strapped to here. So let's show you that will be strapped to there. I need to get the cable ties out, but I can't get to the cable ties because my the frog tank's in the way and I can't open the drawer. What I've had to do, so I ran out of screw threaded air valves as well, so I've only managed to get 2 in, and I've had to sort of adapt those temporarily. So this one's on a splitter, and then I actually came up with this with this method last night. It was 10 o'clock. It was quite late, just in order to get air. Plans for today then, I'm going to start with a massive tidy up, a bit of a clear out. I do have to pack an order. I have to put an order together for Paul. That's what Paul's coming for. So I need to sort Paul's order out. And I think I'm going to swap the pump over. So at the moment, that pump's a PA35, and it is running both racks at the moment, and I think it's just a little bit underpowered. So down here, we do have the PA 80 or PA 85, so I need to get that out. And down there also, I don't know if you can see that, is a big 8-pot extension lead, and I want to try and get that up on the wall here somehow, or do something. I'm not going to extend the electrics for here because that's been there sort of since time began, but I do want to get it up high so I can access plugs easier, and you know, I'm not hiding stuff down the back of racks that I can't get to. But let's cut there for now, and we'll pick up and crack on. What a difference a few hours make. So here, problem with the frogs, I can get them in, but because of this rebate or this reveal, what happens is can't open the doors. Now I did try and put that one on the other side, and then what happens is this door ends up only being able to open so much. The other one's okay, which I probably could work with, but ultimately this rack's looking a bit tired. I think I'm going to build another timber one similar to that for the frogs, and then I can build it to my requirements. The benefit is I've got all the boards, so these are 18mm boards. They're quite thick. That's one. They're quite thick, so I can sort of build it exactly how I want it. You know, I don't have to paint the boards, just the frame. So that's going to be that. I'll do that at some point. Like I say, no rush. And the other benefit is you don't have to cable tie things like this to the rack. You can sort of get your clips in and do what you want to do and stuff. So the only thing I'm waiting for here now then is where this tub is, that needs cleaning out, but I wanted to save the substrate, another one of those tanks. And because they don't go full front to back, I can actually slip that in across and out the side here, because I've moved this rack over and I don't need to mess about with those. Just in the process of cleaning the lids and putting in the top-up system, and then I think I'm going to use what water's left in the bin, top them up, create a new mix, and away we go. And red's looking mighty fine. So yeah, pump's in place as well. So I've swapped the pump over. That's the big PA80. This one's a PA45, and I mean they're powerful. You know, they're powerful, and I've ended up with a PA35 spare. I do need to empty this tank here in the middle of the screen, this one, because my lights have come. So I only ordered them a couple of, I think it was yesterday. I'm gonna switch those off, wire those in, and get everything sort of wired in permanently. The next day again, and I'm starting to run out of things to do, so I've strapped up the air pipe, put some new air valves in, actually labelled them this time, top, middle, bottom, and spare. I've obviously put a spare in. I've completely finished the lighting. I just need to tidy up the connections and shorten the line there. I need to drop a cable down for the air pump because it's not long enough to reach the top plugs, and I need to drop a couple of air lines, just air valves, in this run, just so I've got a couple of spares to run off if I need them. But other than that, the only thing I'm doing now is I'm waiting for the tank to come for there, and then obviously once that's done, I'll reuse that substrate, clean that tub out, and we're pretty much done, obviously apart from moving these two out. 6 tanks up there and 2 tanks on there. And there we have one of the last pieces of the puzzle. I do need to wait for some paint to paint the back of that tank, and likewise for this one. I have started painting the back of this one in situ, but I need another coat, so it's I'm going to do these couple black, but I've got a little bit of paint left, so I've got a little bit of paint, just an acrylic artist paint. I have ordered some off Amazon, a few different colours actually for other things, but these two are going to be black. So I might have another go at painting this, see if I've got enough paint. We're almost done with the first part of this project, so the shrimp side of everything. I've painted this tank, and then if we look at the bottom here, just a little tip, these tanks do come with a base mat, but thanks Gavin for the tanks. Gavin forgot to bring the base mat, and a little tip, little trick, I always have one handy and sat around, is yoga matting. So this is the other tank that's going to go in there, but yoga matting, so cut this to size. I think this is 3mm, but bit of yoga matting, buy a yoga mat, cut as many as you want out of it. I'll get to cutting this one, so I'll probably put it in situ and then sort of run a knife down the side or mark it. But let's get that done and get this last tank put in place. And there we have that last, which will be a Neo tank in place. The gap at the side, I'm probably going to put some small plants or little cacti or something like that. But as I mentioned, I made a mistake where the internal dimensions of this side should have been 920, so I could get them face on, but I actually did the top 920, so it's no big deal. We'll get that sort of finished. I suppose the plan for today is to get this tank in, and I've got cycled substrate, and I've got a cycled filter somewhere I can use, so that's sort of ready to go. I do need to cut a lid for that matches the other ones, and I do have some of that polycarb. And then if I can get this done today, I'm going to catch all the shrimp out of this tank, put the soil out of that tank into a UGF box, and move them over into this tank. And started emptying the tanks that were temporary. Saved my water, albeit it's a bit dirty. I've moved a lot of the soil over, and as I said, what the plan was to move the soil into a UGF box. So I have moved the soil into a UGF box. I'll put what's left sort of in a pile, and that will end up spreading out all over the place. Moved all the plants over. Now there is a shorter surface area, so there's the base isn't as deep as the other one was, but by putting stuff in and stuff on the UGF box, and what I've done with the UGF box is, I don't know if you can see that, I've put it on little stands, and what that will do is that will sort of give me a bit more surface area will give the shrimp a bit more surface area. But because these are opti-white glass, I'm going to get much better footage of these in the long run. So that was sort of the plan. And whatever we don't sort of fill up, what I'll do is I'll just use the water out the mix bucket to get that done. But let's get this finished and wrap this video up. Another little trick that's worth mentioning is fill your UGF box up with water first, otherwise they float away. So just filling up that last low boy. Top of this rack is empty, waiting for the 220 gallons, and then pretty much everything else is where it's intended to live. I am waiting for some clips for the lid on this tank. Everything else has got clips, and I did manage to clip up this lid with those few PRL in. So from a rack build perspective, I'm probably going to end that there, moving stuff around. You know, we've done everything we can for now. I am going to set up another 8 tanks on that rack, but they are going to be mainly fish. If you want to see that, make sure you subscribe, have your notification bell on so you don't miss anything. Don't forget to like and comment, share with your friends. Until next time, take care everybody. Bye bye.